Wisconsin has a lot of natural areas to visit, and they all vary widely in what you can see and do there. But one of the more unique natural areas that you can visit in the state is Horicon Marsh. It's a 33,000-acre wetland where you can hike, kayak, and, a big draw this time of year, catch the fall migrating birds. For this month's Wandering Wisconsin, Lake Effect's Becky Mortensen is joined by Liz Herman, the DNR's wildlife conservation educator at Horicon Marsh, and Amanda Weibel with Travel Wisconsin.
Liz, can you start by just describing Horicon Marsh and what people can see and do there?
Sure. So Horicon Marsh is this amazing wetland complex. It's a 33,000 acre wetland. It consists obviously of a lot of marsh, but it also has some woodlots and some prairies surrounding it in our uplands. And it's this expansive space. It covers about 50 square miles. There's really nothing else like it in the state. And because it's so large, it has this amazing wealth of wildlife, plants, and diversity, and just really a great opportunity for people to see a lot of species that are wetland specialists that they may not be able to see in other places across the state.
So, what is it about the marsh that makes it such a great ecosystem for the plants, birds, and other wildlife that you can see there?
It's the size. It's 33,000 acres, which provides a lot of habitat for our wildlife. And for many people, they recognize Horicon as the largest freshwater cattail marsh in the contiguous United States. And so when you have something that large, you're going to have a lot of what animals need. We talk about what animals need to survive, and it's food, it's water, and it's shelter. And the marsh is able to provide that and in a very vast amount. It also is essentially the headwaters of the Rock River. We have the east branch of the Rock River and the west branch flowing through. So you have this great aquatic ecosystem as well that helps produce all of the insects, whether they are hatching insects or they are aquatic insects that a lot of those animals need as a food source.
And the marsh is a big draw for birders. So, what kinds of birds visit or live at Horicon Marsh?
Right. So if you haven't come to Horicon Marsh and seen a bird, then you definitely haven't been to Horicon Marsh. And we've seen and documented over 300 species of birds throughout the years at Horicon Marsh. And what I love about it is that each season you're going to see something different. And our busiest season for birders coming are the spring for our spring migration and up and coming now for our fall migration. But there's certainly birds that stay here all throughout the year. And we have everything from, again, our wetlands specialists like soras and Virginia rails and a multitude of different heron species. But we also get a lot of our migrants passing through because it is such a great stopover with food and water and shelter. So we get a lot of our songbirds, our warblers, our shorebirds that are moving through. So migration is a really interesting time. Everybody says, well, when does migration start? And in reality, migration is this long process that starts with different species of animals. So for us in the fall, we see migration starting even into July for some of our shorebirds coming through, and then into August for some of our warblers, and then September, October, November is a lot of our waterfowl and water birds that are coming through. So it's really this extended migration that whenever you come, you're going to see something, which is pretty exciting.
So, it sounds like fall is a good time for birders to check out the marsh.
Yes, definitely. I think a lot of people that have come to the marsh or that we talk to and interact with here, they have that memory of coming out to the marsh, maybe back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, where the skies were just black with Canada geese. And that memory is ingrained in them. And although we may not see that many Canada geese at a time, which is actually a good thing, it's still an amazing stopover for migration. We're going to have hundreds of thousands of ducks moving through. What I actually love most about the fall is our crane migration. We get a huge number of sandhill cranes coming and utilizing the marsh as a roost location in big flocks and big groups. And one of my favorite things to do is just sit around the edge of the marsh somewhere about an hour before sunset and stake out a good location and just watch as the sandhill cranes come back in from the fields and roost in the marsh at night. It's a really amazing sight to be able to see.
I'm a big crane fan myself, so that sounds pretty amazing.
We do a crane watch or like a marsh watch just in case there's no cranes, but usually that second Saturday in October. So we just have members of our local bird club come out and we set up a bunch of chairs and have chili and soup and enjoy whatever the evening brings for us.
Amazing. So you did mention those cattails. What can you tell me about the plants at the marsh?
Sure. So cattails are one of those interesting plants because it's what we're the most famous for. As I mentioned, we're known as the largest freshwater cattail marsh in the contiguous United States, but it's also the plant that we fight the most as property managers because they can get so dense and so thick that they can become what we call cattail deserts and actually not be great habitat for animals. So we have a lot of cattails. It is a food source for things like muskrat. They love to eat cattails. And we also have other pockets of diverse marsh species such as sedges and bulrush and a few sprigs of wild rice left over from back in the day. But cattails are something that we frequently work on from a management standpoint as far as trying to get rid of some of them, doing prescribed burns. Sometimes we'll do um, crushing of the cattails to try to lessen them. We'll do some chemical sprays in certain areas to open up those pockets and then allow more native vegetation to grow. We'll also do managed drawdowns where we're basically recreating a natural drought in different areas and allow all of the native seeds that are still in the soil bank a chance to get oxygen and sunlight and grow. And then once we get those plants established, it helps knock back some of the cattails. So yes, very famous for cattails, but actually would love to be a little less famous for them and have some more diversity growing in the marsh.
That's so interesting. I thought it was kind of this point of pride with the marsh, so that's pretty neat
It
to learn.
is. It's because you're the biggest of something, right? So everybody's like, yeah, it must be great. But from a biologic standpoint, you want to have more than one species of plant. We want to have that diversity. And they're out there, but we'd love to see it in bigger numbers.
And you can do more than observe the plants and wildlife at the marsh. You can hunt, fish, and trap there. Is that right?
Yes, there's different rules and regulations depending on where you are in the marsh. So Horicon Marsh is interesting in that it's subdivided essentially into a state wildlife area, which is the southern one third, which is owned and operated by Department of Natural Resources. And then the northern two thirds is the Horicon National Wildlife Refuge, which is owned and operated by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And so because of that, we do have some different rules and regulations for hunting and trapping and fishing. There is no hunting of waterfowl species on the National Wildlife Refuge, but it is open and a part of the history of the state wildlife area. So we do recommend if people are interested in doing any hunting, fishing, trapping, they look at the local regulations. Obviously, they still have to follow all state and federal guidelines for hunting licenses and stamps and that type of thing. But there are certainly opportunities out there for everyone, depending on what your interests are.
So, for people who are planning to come visit the marsh, what kind of programming and education is offered there?
We are located at the Horicon Marsh Education and Visitor Center. It's right in between the towns of Horicon and Mayville. We have a giant metal woolly mammoth out front. So if you come to visit us, that's our location. And we do a multitude of programs throughout the year. We do a lot of smaller programs, but we also have some large scale events. One of those coming up is our candlelight event, which is in January, typically where we line a bunch of our trails with candle powered luminaries and allow people to get out in a different time. We also have the oldest bird festival in the state of Wisconsin, which is the Horicon Marsh Bird Festival. That is always Mother's Day weekend. It usually times out with the peak of our songbird migration in the spring. We do large paddle events to get people out and kayak and paddling out on the marsh. That's typically in June, and then a variety of other events as well. So we try to do large scale events to cater to all the different needs of people that are out there and all the different interests of people out there.
So, also on a visit to the marsh, you could pay a visit to the Explorium. So, Liz, what can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. So the Explorium is located in the Horicon Marsh Education and Visitor Center. It's in our lower level. And essentially, it's a way for people to get the full story of Horicon Marsh. And so it is this hands-on interactive exhibit that goes through the entire 10,000-year history of Horicon Marsh. So you get a true feel of everything that it's been through, from its creation from the glaciers to its destruction from humans to its restoration from an amazing group of people that felt concerned and obligated and wanted to restore Horicon Marsh to what we see today. And it's this really fun and exciting way to learn about it. We've got a full-size woolly mammoth. We've got an airboat simulator that you can drive through the marsh. And it's a fun way to get the full understanding of Horicon Marsh's story. And I always feel that's really important because then you can truly appreciate what you're stepping out and seeing afterwards. And the beauty of the Explorium is it's open all year round. So even if for whatever reason the day you choose to come out to Horicon is maybe a bit rainy or super hot or even in the middle of winter, this is a great option for you to be able to see what's happening at Horicon Marsh.
All right, Amanda, I'm going to turn to you. There is a way to tour this marsh by boat. Can you share a bit about that?
Yes, you are going to want to check out Blue Heron Landing. They are a tour operator that's based out of the city of Horicon, and they have a variety of options to experience this natural wonder by boat. They run pontoon boat tours through the end of October, where an expert guide is going to lead you on a sightseeing tour of the marsh. So you're going to learn about the wildlife, the ecology, and the local history of the area. If you're looking for a little more solitude, you want to go out on your own, Blue Heron Landing also offers paddle rentals. So you can get a single or double kayak or a canoe and paddle your own way through the wetlands. And you're really just going to enjoy being surrounded by all that nature and wildlife.
And Horicon is also home to another outdoor recreation area, one of my favorites in Wisconsin, Dodge County Ledge Park. What can you share about that?
I'm really not surprised to hear that that's a favorite, Becky, because it really does show off one of Wisconsin's geological wonders. It lies along the Niagara Escarpment, so that's a unique geological feature that stretches for hundreds of miles along the remnants of an ancient sea. It starts in southeast Wisconsin and travels up through the state, through Door County, across Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and then into Canada. And the escarpment is defined by these high rocky cliffs. So at Dodge County Ledge Park, you are going to find a cliff that rises up 50 feet at points. And there's this great hiking trail along the cliff that lets you take it in from a ton of different perspectives. You definitely want to make sure that you go to the top of the cliff for amazing, amazing views. You're going to get this panoramic look at Horicon Marsh. And I mean, this is going to be stunning any time of year, but especially as the leaves are starting to change colors, it's a really good idea to visit. So I actually checked out Travel Wisconsin's fall color report, and the estimated peak color is forecasted for late October in Dodge County. So if you're planning a fall trip, you might want to keep an eye on that report as the leaves change. You can find it at travelwisconsin.com/fall color report.
All right, so if people are making a trip to Horicon to see the fall colors, take in the marsh, where are some places you would recommend they stop to eat?
If you're looking for a great breakfast spot, check out the Sherwood Family Restaurant in Mayville. It's a really popular place with the locals, and you're going to find all of your breakfast classics. Their flavor-loaded skillets, omelets, egg sandwiches, French toast, and much more. For a great dinner option, head to Don Ramon Mexican Restaurant. One of my colleagues who travels all around the state for his job argues that it is some of the best Mexican food in Wisconsin, and he has never steered me wrong, so I definitely recommend checking them out. Their menu is loaded with authentic flavors, and the owners, they really want you to feel like family when you visit. So you are going to notice that as soon as you walk in the door, and you are certainly going to be in store for a wonderful meal.
And where are some places that people could stay the night in the Horicon area?
The Audubon Inn in Mayville is a really great option. It is a beautiful property that dates back to 1896. I actually had a chance to stay there when I visited Horicon Marsh, and I mean, it is full of stately details inside and out. Certainly a memory for me was all of the locally produced artwork on the walls, in the hallways leading up to the rooms, but in all of the guest rooms as well. It's just really fun to check out. You could even buy a little greeting card or a piece of artwork to take home to remember your trip. And if you visit on a weekend, you're going to want to visit the hotel bar. It's the Beaumont Bar. They're open Friday and Saturday evening. And it's also just full of charm. These beautiful wood accents, stained glass features, and bird motifs throughout. Another terrific option is the Honeybee Inn in the city of Horicon. It's just another beautiful property, and it really has this romantic feel about it. So it's a great choice for couples. And they've got plenty of add-ons to consider for your stay, like massages or their celebration packages.
There are a lot of great places in Wisconsin where people can get outdoors, enjoy nature and wildlife. So some people might be asking themselves, why visit a marsh? So for each of you, why would you encourage people to visit the marsh and spend some time there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think for me, the great thing about Horicon Marsh is it's different every time you go there. And so we always tell people, you may have seen a very small portion of Horicon Marsh when you visited, but we can guarantee that every single time you come, you will see something different. You will experience something different. And people, whenever they come, they're like, man, I got to come back in the fall, or I've got to come back in the spring, and I've got to see this a different way. And so we really see that across the board, that Horicon Marsh is not just for a single season. It's really different and exciting every time. And so we hope that people recognize that, and also recognize that it is a very large wetland, something else we don't really see anywhere else in the state. And so if you're really truly interested in those wetland species and seeing something, they call it the little Everglades. So seeing something close to what you might see in southern Florida, in Wisconsin, it's pretty exciting.
We really are just so fortunate in Wisconsin to have such a variety of fantastic outdoor destinations. And each one tells a different story. Each one comes with unexpected experiences and new ways to make memories. And Horicon Marsh just truly is such a gem. It is a unique Wisconsin experience, so rich in wildlife, so rich in biodiversity, that it's absolutely a bucket list destination for any birder or any outdoor enthusiast. But I also love that it's very approachable for a new outdoorist. The Explorium is a really great starting point for families. It's fun and interactive and gives you an even better understanding of all the things that you're going to experience when you visit the marsh.
All right, Amanda and Liz, thank you both so much for joining me for Wandering Wisconsin.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. Thanks.
Amanda Weibel is the Communications Officer for Travel Wisconsin. Liz Hersman is the DNR's Wildlife Conservation Educator at Horicon Marsh. They spoke with Lake Effect's Becky Mortensen for our series Wandering Wisconsin, where we help you plan a trip in our home state. You can find more trip recommendations at wuwm.com.